Whether you're trapped on a plane, trapped in space, trapped by dinosaurs, trapped by robots, or trapped in an avatar, chances are you're in one of the greatest movies ever made. This is Movie Night. Hello and welcome to Movie Night, YouTube's only weekly interactive movie review show. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. And on today's special episode, we'll be looking at 10 movies that scored a 10 on my personal rate-o-matic. Not necessarily my 10 favorites, but just 10 movies that scored a 10. In my life, I've probably seen about 1,000 movies. I would say about 25 of them have scored a 10. We've already talked about Die Hard and Back to the Future and why I think they deserve that score, but I want to make sure that you understand a 10 does not equal a perfect or flawless film. To me, it just represents my favorite films, the movies I could watch over and over again, the top 1% of all movies I've seen. We've already talked about a couple. We're going to talk about 10 more. In alphabetical order, let's start off with this one. Air Force One, a movie starring Harrison Ford on a plane about terrorists, came out in 1997. I was only 12 years old at the time, but this movie absolutely floored me to the edge of my seat for the entire 2.5 hours. This movie is intense, it's fast-paced. I loved the concept of terrorists on board the most secure aircraft in the world. I mean, today it doesn't seem that original, but it was just one of those exciting, engaging movies that I just absolutely love to watch over and over and over again. Yeah, it's not perfect, but I love watching Harrison Ford shoot terrorists and kick them off the back of airplanes. This movie has to get a 10 for me. Anyway, so next movie we're going to look at is Apollo 13. As far as true story movies go, this is my absolute favorite. Ron Howard has done an absolutely amazing job of, one, recreating the facts as accurately as possible, and doing so in a way that is just incredibly engrossing and just captivating for the entire movie. Apollo 13, all-star effects, all-star cast, and a real-life story. You really can't go wrong with this film. And growing up as a kid, I was an absolute space nerd. I loved everything about the Apollo program. I watched all the space shuttle launches and stuff. So for me, this movie is one of the finest I've ever seen. Next movie on my 10 for 10 list is the brand new and very recently released Avatar. You've all been waiting for me to review this movie. The fact is, this movie deserves every accolade that it receives. I saw this movie in the theater with the 3D goggles. It is absolutely stunning, breathtaking. This movie combines the greatest special effects ever achieved in filmmaking with a decent enough plot that everything works together. I was blown away by Avatar, and I absolutely loved every minute of it. Anything less than a 10, I just can't really feel it. That movie deserves the highest score I can give it. That was a 10. Next movie on our list is Braveheart, 1995 Best Picture starring Mel Gibson, written by Mel Gibson, about the story of William Wallace, the Scotsman who took on the English army. And this is also based on a true story like Apollo 13, but this is an absolutely fantastic film. Some of the greatest battle scenes, some of the greatest just filmmaking overall. Like the cinematography in Braveheart is absolutely beautiful. Mel Gibson does a great job. This is a long movie, over 3 hours, and when I first saw it, I thought I was only sitting on the couch for about 20 minutes. This is the kind of movie that pulls you in. You really get invested in this film, and it is just entertaining, top to bottom, for 3 hours, and I can't say that about too many films. I have to give Braveheart a 10. Next movie on the list is one I'm sure you're familiar with, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, I like all the Indiana Jones movies, but 1 and 3 especially are my favorites, and for reasons that are just obvious. I mean, these movies pack everything you'd ever loved about an adventure movie. You get planes, you get trains, you get tanks, you get bullwhips, you get guns, you get stabs, you get explosions, all sorts of cool stuff, all mixed in with all these religious undertones and cool special effects. Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones in these movies. It's like the role he was born to play. When I say Indiana Jones, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's not many other characters in movie history that you really get that iconic image in your head the second I pronounce the name. It's a perfect, feel-good, fun popcorn movie. It's really an amazing film, and I don't think many of you would actually argue with that. Our next film on my 10 for 10 is Jurassic Park. This movie takes you to a place you didn't even think was possible. In 1994, this movie created dinosaurs. And who as a kid didn't love dinosaurs? Drawing dinosaurs on construction paper, learning about it in elementary school. This movie brought them to life. And of course, then they started eating people, which is the coolest part. But it's not just about the special effects, the fact they have dinosaurs on the screen for the first time in a realistic way. It is about the people in this movie and about the storyline, and it just brings you in It's just one of those movies that when you grow up watching it like 5, 6, 7 years old, you'd want to watch it again and again and again, and every time it's just an amazing film that you can't get enough of. Jurassic Park has to get a 10 for me. My next movie for 10 for 10 is Shawshank Redemption, the 1994 movie starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman, the Stephen King novel about escaping from prison. Absolutely incredible writing, cinematography. Everything about this film is just absolutely flawless. There is not a single thing about this movie I do not like. One of the greatest masterpieces in film history. There's really not a single thing I can say about Shawshank Redemption that isn't positive. Fantastic film. It has to get a 10 for me. And in the 8th movie we're going to talk about today is really 6 movies, and I'm talking about Star Wars. My personal favorites are Empire and Return of the Jedi, but I love all 6 of them, even The Phantom Menace. And these are movies similar to Jurassic Park that take you to a place in your imagination that you didn't even know existed. George Lucas really just illustrates a world and a universe where anything is imaginable, and yet if it wasn't for George Lucas, we would not have imagined such an amazingly lush landscape of creatures, characters, worlds, the Sith Lords, the Jedis. This is the kind of movie that just really gets you interested in the mythos behind the characters. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Darth Vader, I mean, you know all of them by name. The characters, not the actors, are household names in this instance, which is why it works so well. All of the films, 1 through 6, they work so great together. I have to give the Star Wars saga an amazing on the Rate-O-Matic. It's really, that's a no-brainer. It's Star Wars. It basically is the reason I'm involved in video production right now. Star Wars is that movie that inspired me to do this for a living. Love Star Wars. Next movie on the list though, Terminator 2. Terminator 1, 3, and 4, they're okay movies, but Terminator 2 really takes the cake here. James Cameron is an expert director and filmmaker, and just Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, the special effects, the action, the non-stop thrill ride that this 2.5-hour movie is, absolutely balls to the wall, one of the greatest action movies ever made, up there with Die Hard. It's just some of the most interesting and engaging stuff I've ever seen on screen. And T-1000, one of the best villains, I think, ever committed to celluloid. He is just the guy that you love to hate, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, he doesn't have to do much here, but he does just enough to make himself one of the most iconic characters in sci-fi movie history, really. Terminator 2, I have to give it a 10. And our final film on the 10 for 10, The Dark Knight. This movie came out 2 years ago, and it's already easily one of my top favorites of all time. The Dark Knight is this just grandiose film that piles on plot after character after character. And this is the kind of movie, after I was finished watching it in theaters, I thought to myself, wow, could they have done any more there? This movie literally climaxes 7 times. I thought the movie was over an hour and a half in. But no, the movie doesn't pull any punches, it just keeps going and going and going. It's Batman, it's the Joker, it's Two-Face. So much of this movie is just so well woven, it's so well written, it's well acted, the special effects, the music, an epic masterpiece of action, of drama, of comic books. It's the movie we all deserve from the Batman franchise, and it definitely deserves a 10, and again, I don't think many of you are disagreeing with me. But for those that did disagree with my opinions and what you thought about them, now let's take a look at what you guys voted as your top 10 movies of all time. Now here's your actual top 10. We'll go from the bottom up. Spot number 10, Die Hard. The whole series got 74 votes. Forrest Gump, 9th spot with 79 votes. In 8th place was last year's The Hangover with 83 votes. With 87 votes in the 7th spot was Fight Club. Tied for 5th place, Terminator, whole series again, with 103 votes. Shawshank Redemption, also with 103 votes. In 4th place was Back to the Future with 129 votes. In 3rd place, The Dark Knight, 154 votes. 2nd place, Star Wars Saga, 172 votes. And in 1st place, Avatar with 227 votes out of the 1,500 cast. Well, you can't argue with it. There it is, the top 10 movies of all time as voted on by the Movie Night audience. So thank you again for everybody that voted and contributed to the list. Moving forward now, let's take a look at some of Hollywood's latest releases as we read some tweet critiques. And DePage tweeted, Shutter Island, Scorsese did a fantastic job with the plot and was able to keep you thinking, not as good as the book, as usual. 8 out of 10. Kiwi Banana Fruit tweeted, Percy Jackson, clearly they only read the cliff notes of the book. As a movie though, it was great. As a movie about a book, fail. Again, if you're going to the movies this theater, make sure to tweet your review with the JPMN hashtag and have it possibly featured on an upcoming episode of Movie Night. That does it for this week's episode, and thank you again for everybody who voted in the 10 for 10. Now let's take a look at the movies we'll be reviewing for next week's episode. Law-Abiding Citizen is a 2009 thriller starring Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx. It earned over $100 million when it came out at the box office last year, and it's new on DVD this month. Our second film next week is The Informant, a dark comedy by director Steven Soderbergh starring Matt Damon. It came out to some mixed reviews last fall, but I've heard it's good, so I'm looking forward to seeing it. I hope you get a chance to buy, rent, or download these movies before next week's episode, as I'm looking forward to reading what you have to say about them. Until then, once again, my name is Jonathan Paula. Thanks for joining me on Movie Night.